Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle, and this is my latest new album spotlight where I put the spotlight on a new prog release that is notable that I wanted to talk about and recommend to you guys. And today we've got on the schedule the new Kaipa album, Urskog. This just came out this last Friday. A really exciting new prog album from these luminaries in the prog world from Sweden. This is a band that was actually founded back in 1973, was around in that classic prog age, but they disbanded in 1982 and reformed back in 2000, which is kind of the modern iteration of the band that I'm most familiar with. Of course, back in the early days, they had Roine Stolt on board, notably, who's, of course, the leader of the Flower Kings. Hans Lunden has been a long-standing member who is still a member of the group and plays keyboards and does a lot of the writing. When they reformed in 2000, Roine Stolt was actually part of the group again. They kind of reformed it together. But since Roine Stolt has left the group and Hans Lunden has kind of continued on to be the man in charge and kind of assembling this group and keeping it going. And they've released several albums. I believe this is their 14th studio album, Urskog, and they just have this classic symphonic style that brings in elements of folk music and jazz music and really has that kind of Swedish progressive rock undertone with great big symphonic styles, harkening back to all the classics that I'm always talking about on this channel, to the sounds of Yes, to the sounds of Genesis. They're just big and bombastic and are fantastic players, and so one of the premier prog bands of the modern era. I really love all of their work. Their previous album from 2017, I believe, was Children of the Sounds, which was a fantastic album. And before that, they've had quite a storied career of several modern prog albums. In the Wake of Evolution is one of my all-time favorites. I also love Keyholder, which was one of the early ones when they first reformed in the early 2000s. That was kind of a seminal album when I was getting into modern prog music. So it's definitely a great band with great material under its belt, and I like how they kind of embrace this Swedish style and have album titles that are in Swedish as well as lyrics sometimes in Swedish, as on this album on the title track Urskog. There's definitely Swedish lyrics that come into the foreground that are really impressive and really fun and give an added character and spirit to the releases that I think really makes them singular and stand out in their own way amongst the big modern symphonic prog landscape. So this album in particular, to me, overall just feels like a warm prog blanket. You know, it's that comfort prog feel for me, as usual, where it's just, it washes over you. There's all of the hallmarks of what you'd expect from this band and this style. And it just kind of washes over you, and you can kind of relax and let the music take you on a journey. That to me is the overwhelming thought I have about the album, is that it takes me on a journey through many different landscapes. It sounds like the genesis of the album here was that Hans Lunden was working on his set of solo year albums from 1982 to 1989, revisiting those, listening to these old compositions in a new way, kind of brought new thoughts to mind musically. Nice chord structure here, a melodic fragment to a song there, sampling some certain sounds that are from those 80s releases, but also inspired by some of his journeys traveling through the countryside on biking treks. That kind of inspired the feel of the music, and the songs kind of take you on a journey through the different seasons. It starts with the frozen dead of night, kind of talking about the bleak kind of winter side of the coin, and ends with the bitter setting sun, which kind of talks about the end of summer and going into fall. So there's a lot of talk about the different seasons and how they evoke certain thoughts and feelings, and I think that's an interesting concept that kind of runs throughout this album. But really, it's not a conceptual album mostly for me. It's just a great, exciting journey through the world of symphonic prog. It's really breathtaking what they're able to accomplish. The musicianship is just off the charts incredible. It goes through so many different movements and sections, a lot of great chord changes, styles similar to jazz and folk music. There's a lot of instrumental sections that are extended. There's a lot of great soloing from both guitar from Per Nilsson, as well as, of course, on the keyboards from Hans Linden. Just incredible musicianship shining through. And the new drummer, Darby Todd, who is drumming for them for the first time on this record, is just fantastic. The rhythm section between him and Jonas Reingold is just fantastic, totally in the pocket. There's some great grooves. There's even some cool funky sections throughout the album that really allow them to shine as musicians. Of course, their previous drummer was Morgan Agren, who was also a fantastic drummer and really contributed to their sound in a big way, but I think Darby Todd really takes the mantle in a really strong way here. It's a really beautiful album that really evokes some great moments and makes you feel like you're going through this wooded landscape throughout, like the album cover suggests, just this kind of big forest and going through these landscapes through the different seasons throughout the year. It's a really nice feel that I really enjoyed. I was kind of surprised by the first track, The Frozen Dead of Night, which is the longest track here, almost at 19 minutes. It's kind of a slower build. It doesn't really explode as I would expect with their music. Usually they kind of maybe have a slower build, but then there's a moment where it just explodes and gets into this heavier, kind of more hard-hitting section. But this kind of stays in a more mid-tempo lane. It starts with a slow build with Patrick, his vocals taking center stage before this kind of slow-burning build through different instrumental sections with lots of focus on the keyboards from Hans Linden, lots of great jazzy chord changes and great harmony vocals. There's some great guitar soloing traded off with keyboard solos, just taking you through this journey of different prog soundscapes with swirling keyboards and really sonic, ear candy as you go throughout this journey, throughout this track. There's a playful section about 11 minutes in that kind of breaks things up a little bit with some great backing vocals, and it leads to a big kind of grand conclusion with soaring vocals over majestic keys and bombastic drums, just morphing along through these different aural landscapes. It's really, really cool. But it, like I said, it struck me the first listen or two that it's a little bit more a laid back feel than a lot of their other stuff. It doesn't really come out aggressively with these like really fast, crazy, intricate instrumental sections. There's a lot of intricacy, there's a lot of complexity in the music and in the playing, but it kind of takes this kind of slower build, and I think that really evokes this kind of midwinter kind of countryside journey feel that really makes the song a success. Is it perhaps a bit overlong and could be trimmed just slightly? Probably, but I think it's important that it's a long, extended piece that takes you on such a delightful journey through different soundscapes of the music. I really appreciate it. This moves us into In a World of Pines, which gives their other vocalist, Alina Gibson, a chance to shine. Her vocals are very prominent on this piece, and it's a really beautiful piece. Builds with a big, grand, majestic feel towards the end, but kind of slows down with some beautiful piano and string sounds with her vocals taking center stage. And once again, there's some upbeat instrumental kind of sections halfway through that kind of are that typical Kaipa symphonic prog style with a bit of jazz chord changes thrown into the mix with some solid guitar soloing. But really, Alina's vocals really ground this piece and make it, transcend to a more heavenly place because of how beautiful and evocative her vocals are. She really goes into a very high, angelic kind of vocal range that I really appreciate. But there's a cool section where she has her vocals and some harmonies going on, but there's some kind of almost folky acoustic kind of guitar playing behind her with some great bass lines underneath. It's just a really fantastic sound and really kind of evokes a great spirit to me. I really like that piece. Urskog comes next, kind of the title track of the album, which has, like I said, those Swedish vocals from Patrick. Some great darker string sounds start this with the sound of like a violin and cello. Really hauntingly beautiful before you hear these kind of primal call of the vocals before the drums enter the fray for a big bombastic interest with some symphonic stabs of music. It's really fun. The keyboard sounds break through in a fascinating way. It just continues on that vein, just in a really cool journey way with a lot of different moods and shifts throughout the track with some great pounding drum work, some great keyboard swells. Just once again, this album takes you on a journey through different landscapes, through different prog sounds and styles, and you're just able to sit back and let it wash over you. Wilderness Excursion is an instrumental track on the album with some really hard-hitting, kind of edgy jazz sounds at the beginning before it kind of ramps up to their typical symphonic style. Really, really cool stuff. There's some of the heavier moments on the album are here with some almost metallic kind of sections with crunchier Hammond organ sounds. Really a master class in playing with some great jazzy guitar soloing, some funky bits in the mix as well. Just a really cool track that goes through so many different styles and moods. In the Wastelands of My Mind is the next track. It's the shortest track on the album, kind of more of that folk-inspired kind of classic Kaipa sound that you'd expect. A great focus on violin really leads the charge on this, and there's just some great vocals from Patrick as well, just blending the lines between that folk and prog sound that they do so well. I really appreciated and enjoyed this track. And then they kind of end with the grand epic piece, the 15 minutes, The Bitter Setting Sun, which to me is the highlight of the whole album. They really end with a bang, and this is kind of the moment I was waiting for, where they get really hard-hitting, really intricate, really complex progressive stuff with so many great moments that are just hard-hitting and fun and quirky, and some great sections that just really bring this diversity of sound. Just this explosive symphonic tour de force opening containing all the hallmarks of their sound with high-octane energy. Patrick's vocals come in as the music slows down a bit, but there's this beautiful sounds backing his vocal range. Funky vibes kind of start up at minute 5 in a very cool section where they even add some saxophone to the mix, which adds kind of another new flavor and variety to the music that wasn't heard yet. It really a cool section, just keeps grooving along with this kind of funky feel, mixing between some sung and instrumental sections, never losing the energy. It's just high energy the whole time through. Another great segment starts at 10 minutes in with lots of fast and fun, crazy trading solos and just really quirky, fun instrumental moments, and it builds, of course, to an epic, great conclusion. So this is one of my favorite tracks of the year, The Bitter Setting Sun. I just really was captivated and had a lot of fun with this. Just totally my style of prog, just that hard-hitting, heavy but symphonic prog stylings with a little bit of jazz and folk thrown in the mix for good measure to provide some variety. Just really an excellent album that I recommend. Really solid for the group. Where it sits in their discography compared to their other albums, I think it sits kind of in the middle. It's very much in line with all of their recent albums, and just manages to stay consistent with their high level of quality. Just excellent playing, excellent musicianship, great singing, great soloing, great different sounds and styles and textures, really taking you on a journey through these different landscapes. The music never really lets up with all this different shifting and changing. So I really respect and appreciate what the band has done here, and I'm excited to hear where they continue forward from here. Really great stuff, and I hope you guys check it out if you like this style of great classic symphonic prog. So thank you guys for joining me. I hope you appreciated this video. Please subscribe if you like this prog content and would like to hear more from me and get the news every week in my weekly news show, as well as seeing all of the new releases that are coming out that I spotlight through these album reviews. I really respect and appreciate all of you out there who have subscribed and who are following this channel. It has meant a lot to me, and so I just always want to thank you guys towards the end of these videos, because it definitely means a lot to me. Your investment in my channel and all of the comments and the likes and all of that stuff is just all so supportive, and I'm so grateful. So thank you guys so much, and I hope you guys will continue following me and will catch me in another video. So keep enjoying the music. If it's this Kaipa album or whatever else you've got going on, just keep enjoying it, and I'll catch you guys in another video. Bye, everybody.